You ever feel like the people who were supposed to love you actually hoped you'd fail? I asked, voice low but steady, letting the weight of the words hang in the air. Because that's my life story. I was 9 when everything changed. My twin brother and I were laughing in the backyard, pretending we were superheroes, imagining a life full of endless summers and adventures. And then, one phone call, one accident. Our parents were gone. Just like that. No warning, no chance to say goodbye. No instructions for the world we suddenly had to navigate alone. Our grandparents stepped in, or at least that's what they told themselves. I was 9, small enough to hope that maybe, just maybe, they would love us equally. But it didn't take long to see the truth. They had a favorite, my brother. Every compliment, every small victory, every excuse, they reserved for him. Me? I was invisible. Mistakes were amplified, achievements expected. Their love wasn't unconditional. It was a competition, and I wasn't winning. I remember my first real breakdown. It was my 10th birthday. My brother received a new bike, a huge party, balloons everywhere. I got a card. A card and a smile that didn't reach their eyes. I cried in my room that night, not just for the bike, but for being overlooked, for being invisible in the people who were supposed to care most. That was the night I swore I would never feel powerless again. I couldn't control them, couldn't force them to love me, but I could control myself. I could build a life they couldn't touch. Middle school was where my rebellion began. I threw myself into everything I could. Sports, art, academics, anything to prove I was more than their indifference. Every time I succeeded, I felt a small spark of joy, but also a pang of bitterness. I realized they weren't proud of me. They were scared. Scared I might step outside the lines they had drawn. Scared I might outgrow their control. High school wasn't easier. My brother floated through, always praised, always coddled. I carried invisible weights. Loneliness, frustration, bitterness. But with each challenge I faced, I grew stronger. Late-night study sessions, sleepless nights perfecting essays, extra shifts at jobs I didn't need but insisted on working. They became my armor. Every "you can't" whispered under their breath. Every favor given to him and denied to me was fuel for the fire that was growing inside. By the time I left for college, I was ready. I chose a school far away where no one could watch me, judge me, or measure my worth. For the first time, I felt what it meant to be free. I discovered talents, ambitions, and strength I didn't know I had. And I thrived. I became unstoppable, fueled not by their approval, but by my own relentless drive. Years passed. I climbed the ladder in my career with a focus and ferocity that made people stop and take notice. I built networks, earned respect, and established power. I had everything they thought I could never have. And more. My brother? Struggling to find direction in a life he assumed would always come easy. My grandparents? Aging, dependent, and suddenly needing help they had never offered me when I was small. And then came the calls. My brother's voice shaking, begging for guidance. My grandparents pleading, needing support. For the first time, I realized the power had shifted. The little girl they overlooked, the one they dismissed. They needed her. I didn't answer immediately. I let them wait. I let them feel the panic that comes from losing control. And then I spoke. Calmly. Deliberately. Do you remember how it felt to make me invisible? To favor him, to make me feel worthless? That's not happening again. I could hear the silence on the other end. It was perfect. The lesson I had carried with me all those years, that respect cannot be demanded, control cannot be forced, was finally sinking in. They had lost the illusion of power, and for the first time I realized how sweet it was to be free. But I didn't leave them in the cold. I helped them. Not because they deserved it, but because I could choose. I could be the person I had always needed. The power was mine, and with it came freedom. I could help, I could guide, I could nurture. But only on my terms. And for the first time, I felt completely, utterly unstoppable. The years after that were surreal. My career soared, my life became my own, and every decision was mine to make. I watched my grandparents' health decline, my brother's struggles mount, and I realized something important. The past doesn't define you, but it shapes you. And when you rise above it, when you claim your power, you change everything. Even when I thought I had seen it all, I discovered something darker. The resentment I'd carried for so long wasn't gone. It lingered in quiet moments, in the reflection of my own shadow. But I learned to channel it, to turn anger into drive, bitterness into ambition, and pain into empathy. It became my secret weapon, the force behind every success, every bold choice, every barrier I shattered. And here's the final twist, the part nobody warns you about. When they finally realized I didn't need them, when my brother and grandparents begged, groveled, and tried to reclaim a place in my life, I had the ultimate clarity. I was no longer the scared little girl they thought they could control. I was the storm they never saw coming, the power they underestimated. And I had learned the most important lesson. Control is an illusion. Freedom is the only truth. So remember this. No one can decide your worth. No one can dictate your future. And sometimes the most satisfying victory isn't revenge. It's thriving, rising, winning in ways no one saw coming. If this story gave you chills, if it lit that fire in your chest, do this for me. Hit like. Subscribe. There are more stories like this. Stories of overcoming, of power, of taking control of your life. And remember, sometimes the people who thought they could break you end up needing you the most. And that's when you realize just how far you've come.